ahead if anyone else walks in, we'll catch them up. If you haven't already, fill out the Google form. If you have done that, cool, hang tight for a sec. There's a QR code and a link if we're doing it on the laptop. It's also on the agenda that Christelle emailed out today. And if you have not joined our Google Classroom through your Wake County account, I'm gonna pull up the code for that as well. And again, that's on the agenda. And if you're not familiar with Google Classroom, I can come around and help you with that.
She gets that.
Fine.
Okay, good.
So Kelly, one more time, if I can't do that QR code, I'm doing what?
This is the link.
Okay.
If you can read it, if you can't, it's also Christelle emailed out the agenda and it has the link in there.
I do have that, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, you can link directly to it.
Got it.
Okay. You just need to attendance.
Okay, so kind of while you guys are doing this, I'm gonna explain to you, this is the setup that I have in my classroom. Like how you see my board is what kids see every day when they come in. So if I had a warm up, and I did this the other day with my math 3 kids where they had to do a Google form, I have it on devices out so that when they come in, they know, okay, I need my computer out, warm ups on the board, and I've like gone through that procedure with them every single day of knowing that warm ups on the board. And so they need electronics, I have it. And then what I did was I have one classroom laptop, so kids who didn't have phones that were working or didn't have access could, like, it was a 5-question Google form, so they could cycle through it pretty quickly. And I had something else that they were working on at the same time to, like, if I didn't have enough devices for every kid, that I could do that. And, like, they're pretty good, too, about it. And I had about, like, 75% participation in that warm-up, which I don't think is any less than I would have had it been just on paper. And it saved me a ton of time of like collecting things and finding names and blah, blah, blah. So this is what they would see when they come in, is that we have devices out. And then I'll kind of show you how to transition through that throughout this period of what we're doing. So we can get a few more minutes to finish that form, and we'll go from there. And I did not print the agenda, so I'm working off my computer. If you haven't logged into Google Classroom or have never gone into Google Classroom and don't know how to do it, let me know, because I can help you log in and make sure that you can see the BYOD class too.
Is it just in Google Drive, or how do you?
Google Classroom?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Here, actually, there's some. If you click here.
Or what was the?
Log in as
How to change that.
Yes.
I did this, and now we're doing this.
Good, yeah. Does anybody else need help joining the classroom?
And then
Says
the
it's
classroom.
You're like a star student here, Nicole can help you change the expert at your table.
Are we adding?
Yes. Yeah, no, that's fine, of course. Yeah, whenever you finish that. You're on your classroom now, so you're good. Yep.
So if you click on that plus sign up on the right.
I'm assuming you're. You guys good? Oh, it's really good.
And then when you just enter that code, you'll be in the box.
Did you have any issues getting the
Yep,
classroom?
XN 947.
I'm good.
Okay,
I just
awesome.
have kids who have trouble.
Oh, are you using it in class then?
Yes.
So have you,
That's my biggest battle
have you used that slideshow at all with them? For any of your kids that I sent around? So I created a slideshow the other day, because I've literally reset probably 400 passwords. But that's an exaggeration, 200 passwords.
Yeah, too many.
I'm like a bobblehead doll now, so I was like, now when they come to me, I say, okay, here's the slideshow. Work through this. If you get to a roadblock, you'll have to do it again tomorrow because I'll have to reset a password.
Right.
But you can have them do that in class too, and they can also do
See
it.
the agenda and everything. Their email at all.
So you can access their email through that email list that Jeff has. And then tell them, but if you don't, then we will reset the password and essentially send you an email.
I've done the reset password recently. They're good.
I don't know who she is. I don't know who that's sorry. Just be.
I think that's the biggest battle I've seen with the classroom.
You should.
I think seniors, it's like half of them aren't even aware.
If you ever do a PD session, that would make you.
I have no
Did you
idea.
know? Everybody knows how to do it.
So I was
You're
on
seeing
the
like
agenda, I
students,
clicked on it.
Just communicating.
Here I am.
Okay, having that more accessible for them, so I didn't know.
That'd be a great activity for homeroom.
Okay, follow me.
25 minutes is
Yeah, this summer.
Yeah.
generally not 25 minutes.
Yeah.
rarely does have a, I mean, it's a small object, like pass out.
Well, I am going to do
So think about, okay,
So if they don't know, then I have to take their name down, go to that list, find their name, write it down for them. And then it's their student ID, if they've never changed it, so.
Right.
You don't have access to
We just
it.
need more, we just need more
I
help.
think just that, there's a breaking down communication there,
Oh,
that
yeah.
this is what this is like.
It's like, I've been, see, I've
So
been
just needs to be
using
refreshed.
classroom thing,
It was,
but I've just run it by myself. Like, I have no, never sat down, no one never taught me, no one ever anything.
Alright, we're gonna take
I just sat
about
down and
30 more
started playing with it.
seconds.
administrator.
Already did this.
And it worked out pretty
Have you
well.
logged into your classroom?
And we use
Not all of my kids.
we use another little website
I haven't done it
called
today.
okay,
Flipgrid.
that's fine. As long as you've been, just if you'll go
It's
into the
awesome
class.
for
that way.
especially languages, because we have so many things we want to do
Yeah.
with just pronunciation.
So just hit the Google Drive, probably Google Drive.
Okay, so we're gonna transition now to devices away. So if you are done with Google Classroom and you are done with the Google form that was the warm-up, you're gonna close your computer, put your phone in your pocket. I'm not gonna ask you to like put your laptop on the floor, but normally I would ask my kids to put their phones away where they cannot be seen. And this is because for a lot of them, even the temptation of their phone being on their desk is too strong. So it needs to be like away. Yes, ma'am?
What if you don't have a pocket?
Good question.
Down on your desk, face down.
Cleavage.
Yeah. As long as, so for you, I would say you can leave it on the desk face down. Most kids have something they can put in it. Like they carry a backpack or purses, if they're girls and boys, put it in a hoodie pocket or whatever. So then I would say, okay, we're on devices away. This takes like 30 seconds and now they know. And it's like this big glaring red. Whenever you look at my face, you also see this giant red devices away. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about now is the concept of these stoplights. If you already have a technology system in your classroom that works for you and it is successful, we are not asking you to completely change that. What we're asking for is the consistency of having these signs up in your room and changing them based on what you want the kids to do with their phones, in addition to what you're already doing if that's working. So, again, like we gave you just that laminated sheet. Jeff Hood, if you go into his room, put his on like a little rotating thing that like hangs and he can just like flip it, like a flip chart. I'm gonna do mine on magnets, you can do it on your board, whatever. Yes?
So I changed mine to that, but when I came, my room already had like a stoplight sign up there,
Uh-huh.
and so I just had like little pieces of paper that said like devices away or thumbs down or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and I would just put it on a color, so it's like, it's still like that, but it's on one thing and I can just like change everything.
I think that's fine. As long as you're using the concept of like red, yellow, green, and that those things mean the same, then I think that's okay. I don't have any authority to make that decision, but I'm gonna say it's okay. I'll let you know.
You guys did that and I saw the email, but.
And then along with those stop signs, everyone should have gotten, if you don't have them, little yellow note cards that you can put in the corner of your desk as your phone zone. So I already had yellow Post-it notes. I am not gonna take the time to go back and replace those yellow Post-it notes with yellow index cards. That works perfectly well as a phone zone. If you already have tape or something like that, we're preferring that it's yellow, but again, like don't take a ton of extra time to go back and change it if you already have phone zones on your desk. But we do want you to have something there. So an example of when you would have your kids put their phones in their phone zone is maybe they're doing like a review activity and you know they're gonna need a chance to go back and look at PowerPoints, but you don't want them to be constantly on their phone. That would be a time when you're at yellow, so you're like, you can access my class website if you need it, but otherwise your phone needs to be face down on your desk. Like for my kids, sometimes they use it as a calculator and stuff, and so I would say that would be another time where it could be phone zones, where they're putting them face down on the desk. Like I'm not a huge fan of phone zone, because like I said, like they are way too tempted when their phone's sitting right there. It's like a magnet for their hand. You can't not do it. I don't know, it's weird.
And I'm just gonna caveat that, I use the phone zone like when I'm giving directions. So like they're on green, but I need them to pay attention for a second. I just put the phone zone up there so that they know that their laptop should come down, their phones should flip over, and that they need to pay attention to my voice at this moment. And then I'll put it back on green. So I use it less of, you know.
Yeah, it's like a transition thing more than anything else. Okay. And what we're trying to remember from this is consistency. Like when a kid walks into any classroom in this school, they should know the concept of red, yellow, green. They should know that green means my phone is out and I'm using it for class-related purposes. They should know that yellow is my phone is in a phone zone and red is my device needs to be completely away. And that they're seeing that every time they walk into every classroom. Okay, it might be a slightly different version of that, but it should be the same thing every time. Part of the reason we're doing that is because, I don't know about you, but like I'm leading this BYOD training, and if you walk into my classroom at any given time, you're going to see 3 kids on their phones when they're not supposed to be, or more, or less, depending on the day. But like, we are having a problem with kids using cell phones responsibly, and we're trying to combat that by using this process. And it's going to be kind of like everything isn't ideal right now, where it's like we're willing to hear feedback and adjust this as needed. Okay. Next thing is consequences if they do have their phone out. We're gonna run through just the regular 4 questions. Okay, if you have your phone out when we're on phones away, what are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? Are you doing it? And then what are you gonna do about it? If you were at the training when we did it on Friday the 15th, that woman ran through those 4 questions so quickly that I did not have time to be a pain in the butt if I wanted to be. It wasn't like, what are you doing? Nothing. No, what are you doing? If you don't answer me correctly, you have lunch detention. Like, that was it. It was not playing around. So like, feel free to use those 4 questions very quickly. And like, I have 2 kids that are already like, you're not getting a warning. You're getting a, what are you doing? What are you supposed to be doing? Are you doing it? What are you gonna do about it? And then the next time is lunch detention because they have such a strong issue with it. I have found that incorporating technology more frequently into my class makes them honestly be better at using technology, which is weird. Like if they have a warm-up they're supposed to be doing on their phone and they're like get to touch their phone when they're not texting at other times, I don't know. It's weird, but it's working for some reason. And admin is supposed to be supporting us on those phone consequences. So we've like discussed it with them and made sure that that's what's happening. So it's 4 questions in the 5th question. Lunch detention, behave out.
And like refer to your social contract first, like kind of that general, and don't, like I use a lot of proximity control and I will go over, before I'll do the 4 questions with a student, if I see him, I'll just walk over and I'll be like, you know, before I do the whole 4 questions. And that half the time that eliminates me getting to the 4 questions to begin with, just by being near and they know that they just got caught or whatever.
So after the 4 questions twice, and we give them the lunch detention, I believe that I was, what's the word I'm looking for? Told that we were to call home before lunch detention. So is that yes or is that no? Is that because that's one more step and one more day and you know?
I think you call home when you give lunch detention.
Call,
Yeah.
hey
Yes.
Mom, by the way, I'm giving your kid lunch detention today because, okay, so it's in
That you do
addition
some
to.
homework.
Yes, like
Okay.
that student earned lunch detention that day, you call home that night or afternoon so that mom and dad know the next day that kid's serving lunch detention.
Okay.
And why?
And when they behave out, you behaved out? I mean, what is the process of?
You're behaving out, you call admin, and this is where like I'm struggling too, but I'm not an admin so I don't have the answer to this of like what about when it takes admin 6 minutes to get to your room and this kid knows they behaved out and they're just chilling. We've kind of come up with and talked about in our institute, like we know who has planning for each block. So like if they're behaving out of my class, I can send them to Miss Manister and her planning for those 4 minutes. So you're not in my classroom anymore, and when admin comes, I'm like, they were removed to Miss Manister's classroom, they're with an adult, being supervised till you can get here, but they needed to get out right then. So that is a workaround that my institute has discussed. That has not had any admin approval in any way, but I can't see why it would be wrong. If you like have a kid who needs to leave at that moment.
The recommendation is just if they really need to get out of your room and you really want to, I would just say you go out in the hallway and you wait right there. You leave.
What's the number? It's like 30.
3405.
3405. That's why I like to send them to the room. Like I would call Cassie and like this kid is coming.
And we've talked a lot with admin, and honestly, I was just having a conversation with Hilda, and I said, you know, if we don't see a spike in the next 2 to 3 weeks, this is probably not working because our teachers aren't enforcing it.
Right.
And that's like, I'm not saying kick every kid out of your class. Yeah, do it. You got permission. Like, it's not about that. It's just about, this is not It's not, yes, we want, relationships are really important, but consistency for this is it's the only thing that's gonna make this change the tide, I really think.
I found that
And-
talking to my kids has really helped, and telling them, beforehand, look, I'm gonna tell
Right.
you what, you're gonna get the 4 questions, and then you're gonna get a lunch detention, and I may not tell you, that you have it, but just expect it. If I've said, hey, get off your phone, and it's been 3 times, you're done,
Right.
you're on lunch detention. And my kids, they appreciate that, they get it. We talked about, being in a college course, and you just can't do this, it's
Right.
just, you're here to learn.
And the biggest thing that I found too is like being consistent from kid to kid. Like, oh, you understand all the material, so you can be on your phone. You don't understand anything, so you can't. Like,
Yeah.
we as teachers, I think, just need to make sure that we really are being that consistent. Like, it doesn't matter where you are in the curriculum. We're on phones away. I don't care if the assignment's done. Your phone's not supposed to be out. Period. Like, find something else to occupy your time. You're not allowed to have your phone out. That's a rule for everyone. And like, just enforcing that. And like, I have not had any pushback yet. And I've been doing this system since the start, and I haven't had pushback from kids like majorly yet about it. They're like, oh, you're so annoyed about phones. And I'm like, if you don't want to hear the 4 questions, don't do what you're not supposed to be doing. Like, that's a really easy way to not hear it. So again, like, if they behave out, like some kids, if they need to behave out for their phone, they can sit in their room for 3 minutes till admin gets there. Like, that's not, you're just on your phone, you're not being terrible. So just kind of play that by ear. But don't be afraid to like actually make them leave. And admin knows that. Any more questions about that? Okay, so the last couple things on our agenda are resources that you can use. So like I have found that incorporating technology into my lessons helps with BYOD because they're using them less for the wrong purposes. So we kind of have a list of resources. It's on the Google Classroom. It's also on the KHSCD website, BYOD page.
Oh, yes, do you wanna change the sign? It's on red.
Not yet.
Oh.
Okay. So this is the web page. This is what it looks like. If you want to go explore that and look in Google Classroom, now you can get your phone out. It's on the agenda. Okay. So it's just like if you go to Nidale High School, then it just says /BYOD.
Yeah.
And there's a link to that in the agenda that Christelle sent out, and there's a link to that on the Google Classroom page. Okay? And then we also posted a list of resources like you can use Nearpod, you can use Google Forms, you can use Kahoot, you can use like my AP Statistics class is really heavily using Google Classroom this semester. So there's like a ton of different ideas. And Christelle put together like a quick start guide, like I want to use technology for my warm-up, what resources do I have? I want to use technology for a formative assessment, what resources do I have? So if you know specifically where you would like to incorporate technology, then you have like a couple of ideas that you can try. And not everyone's going to be using the exact same things, right? Like I'm using Google Classroom and AP Statistics, but with my Math 3 kids, we're mostly just using Google Forms. So it's like figuring out what works with your teaching style and with your kids. We're not all supposed to be doing the exact same thing in every room, because that would be super boring.
And the resource list, if you look at that BYOD page, I always miss the menu on the left. It's on the left bar where it says teacher classroom resources.
Oh, right there?
Yeah. Like I was looking for it and I was like, I can't find it. It's right there. When you really get into it and you really want some more than just the quick start guide, that DSAP right there, each one of those, that D, the S, the A, and the P, that links to the resources that the county has been compiling through all the BYOD training that they've been doing. It's a little overwhelming because there's so much there. So if you're not ready for that, just start with a quick start guide and maybe go to that when you're ready for it.
And if you want to incorporate more technology in your classroom and you're not sure how to, which I don't really see a lot of people in this planning group that would have that issue, but like please reach out to someone on the BYOD team. You can ask Christelle, you can ask Jeff, you can ask me, Kayla Turner, Cassie, or if you know someone that's really successfully incorporating BYOD or pieces of technology in their class, like reach out to them. I can show you how to make a Google form in like 20 seconds, and I would not be like unwilling to do that with you. And no one on this team would. Yes.
Okay, so I know how to make a Google form, but when it comes to like sharing it with the kids, I thought I just had to like share the link and they went to it. It didn't work.
Why not?
I don't know.
What error are you getting? Do you know?
I don't remember. It was at the beginning of last semester.
Okay. Come visit. We'll check.
Yeah, and like
So we can fix that.
yeah, shared the link with them and they clicked on the link and went right to the Google form. But it depends too if you do a document or a form where their responses go.
And it might not be open to Wake County, like, she might have only
Yeah,
had
that's what I was
Wake County
thinking.
emails. And so if they're logged into their personal email, then they won't be able to see it.
Yeah, I opened it up to everyone when I did it with my
Yeah.
kids. So there's a couple of little spots that like when you're making your form, we could check with you to make sure it's gonna work.
Yeah. That kind of leads us into the rest of Tech Tuesdays. The whole purpose of Tech Tuesdays is really just for us to get to this stuff that we can't get anyplace else without asking you to come after school for more meetings and PD. We've got a lot of tech things going on in the county, and we just don't have any time anywhere to get that training to you. So you can look for a Tech Tuesday on Google Drive, probably high, middle, low sort of comfort level. Also Google Classroom probably will be doing some on Canvas, which is the tool that's replacing Blackboard as of next year. And that's just a few that we'll have. I'm not sure what our other one is. We've been listening to feedback so that we're giving you what we think you want and what would be useful for you to have. So you will get a half a CEU out of Tech Tuesdays. So if you're absent one day, like Mr. Duncan is videoing Kelly right now so that we can put that up for people who are absent and or whatever, had a meeting or something. So you'll still be able to get your half CEU whether you're able to be here or not. So, and we hope that we'll get some training out to you, that much needed training and all the different tools that are available to you.
One more thing about this BYOD, like it might feel very unnatural to you because whenever you're introduced to something, like I'm introducing it to you from my perspective of how I run my classroom, like please feel free to adapt this within the same structure, but so that it fits your teaching style, your space, what you're doing with your kids. Like we don't want this to be, I was just talking to Christelle, like at this point in the school year, all of our plates are full. Like I am full emotionally and physically and with duties and with committees and with the kid, like my plate is full. So we're not asking you to like add something to your plate. We're asking you to see like where can you substitute all the frustration that's already coming with technology in your classroom with this policy to make it easier and ultimately free up space on your plate is what we're hoping for. So if you feel like this is like adding extra to your plate and you can't do it, please come talk to me so we can figure out how we can make it fit and work for you. Because I don't want you to feel like I'm like shoveling food down your throat for you. One sec.
I feel like it's a lot like the sweeper thing. Like, yeah, that initially that's a big, but gosh, what a difference it's made. Like, don't you think the hallways and the kids are getting into class, it's really making a difference. That's kind of, yeah, initially it's gonna be a little rough, but we really hope over the semester it'll make a big difference.
Last thing that we need from you guys, and if you have individual questions or want to talk about them, you feel free to stay. But last thing is we have a today's meet for this class, and your exit ticket is to post something in that today's meet. A question that you have, or a concern, or a comment, or feedback that you want us to like pay attention to. I'm not gonna try to pull it up because you can't see my web browser.
It's in the agenda and
yeah.
in classroom, so
And
in one of those two places.
I think it's just Tech Tuesday BYOD.
Does it matter which one? Because I have one from you and one from Joe.
Same
I
thing.
think it's the same one. Yeah.
Oh, Tech 2, not Tech Tuesday.
No S. That's another thing.
I'm not gonna really write it. You guys are smart. And you
Yeah.
guys can figure it out.
Don't put a bunch of spaces in there.
So something that you have a question about, are concerned about, need clarification on, feedback, a strategy that you're using that's really working, that you think might be helpful for other teachers, anything. And then you guys are free to go. I think I covered everything. If you did not get your signs, if Jeff kids did not come bring you your signs, these are sorted, you can take them with you. And then we also have packs of yellow note cards for you to create phone zones. This would be a really good job to give a kid to like number them, or to like I gave each kid at the beginning their post-it note, and then I gave them 2 pieces of tape and told them they had to stick them in the corners. And I had one kid who was like all about it and like helped everyone else do it. Like you don't have to spend 20 minutes taping note cards to your desk. Have your kids do it, it'll take 30 seconds, and they think it's like super fun. Who knew?
Do spend some time like introducing it to your
Yeah,
kids.
yeah, yeah.
Like kind of like you did with your social contract, tie it back to your social contract. We were just talking about there's a video. I think Dr. Arjun's going to make a little video giving us sort of background on why this is important, and then we have this little other video that we'll send if you choose to use that as your introduction, and that's totally up to you. But we'll send that out probably by the end of the day today, so that you can have that.
classroom tomorrow. And something that we talked about with BYOD is like, if you need to have a week where your kids are not allowed to use devices at all, so that they reset on phones, that is awesome. Put it on red for a whole week. No phones, no nothing at all. Like, you do not have to use technology every day just because we're trying to incorporate BYOD. Like, if you have to reset your kids, reset them.
Right.
Yes?
Will the day that we're 3 to 1 be soon, or 1 to 3?
That is a question for another
Because
day.
BYOD in the classroom can only happen if we have the devices for them to use. And not everybody has a phone, and there's not every day I can get a computer.
I will tell you, Kayla Turner is an excellent resource for how she works around a lot of that.
Yeah.
She has, she just was talking through, when she did her training, she was talking through some strategies that she uses for, she actually uses iMovie, which I was like, what? iMovie on BYOD, like what? Well, then there's, generally speaking, 5 or 6 iPhones in your class, and iMovie's free on an iPhone, so she just puts them in a group, and the one kid with the iPhone kind of runs the device, and they work. So they're making commercials right now. I would have never thought, like, to go that big on BYOD with just 5 iPhones in the class. But she's like, yeah, it worked really fine. I was like, wow, okay, that was smart. I mean, not that I hadn't thought about groups before, but just when she described it, I was like, okay.
And that would
So-
work with some things, but not.
Not everything. You would want to definitely book a cart
Yeah.
of some sort, or the iPads.
The
to
iPad cards are
supplement.
never all booked every day.
That's
Like,
right.
Iggy's are always booked, and so then I just steal them from entrepreneurship or
You
freshmen.
work it out with
Like,
that institute, it's all
You,
good.
like, you just, like, I had to email Carla and say, can I use your, Iggy's
Yeah.
laptop?
I was taking over.
Y'all take all that.
So,
Jenkins, just please be quiet.
There are strategies, and I don't have a good answer for you there because that's the wake wall.
Just curious.
I can't answer the wake walls issues, and I don't have the proper gear to climb it. So,
Another strategy too, like if you know you're using BYOD, have a couple of print copies, so that if you do have kids who can't use their phones,
good
like,
point.
you know, like if I have a review and I post it online, I have a couple of copies available for kids that either like cannot have their phone in their hand and function, or need it because they don't have a phone.
Yeah. Awesome.
Other than that, you guys are free to go. Stick up with that Google Classroom. We'll send you like things through there.
Yeah.
Like if we find resources that are super helpful or things like that, we'll post them to you guys. I am newly obsessed with Google Classroom. I'm all about it. I think it's the greatest thing that's ever happened, ever, in the history of ever, so.
And we'll have some training on that coming up too. So like that'll be one of the Tech Tuesdays. There's 2 basic workflow tools that are kind of a good option right now, and that's Google Classroom and Canvas, and they both offer different positives and negatives. So we're all kind of putting that together to see like what kind of training we can offer you because Blackboard is going away.